The Essence of Christianity by Ludwig Feuerbach, Chapter 1, Section 2, The Essence of Religion Considered Generally. What we have hitherto been maintaining generally, even with regard to sensational impressions of the relation between subject and object, applies especially to the relation between the subject and the religious object. In the perceptions of the essence, consciousness of the object is distinguishable from consciousness of self. But in religion, consciousness of the object and self-consciousness coincide. The object of the senses is out of man, the religious object is within him, and therefore as little forsakes him as his self-consciousness or his conscience. It is the intimate, the closest object. God, says Augustine, for example, is never nearer, more related to us, and therefore more easily known by us than sensible corporal things. The object of the senses is in itself indifferent, independent of the disposition of the judgment, but the object of religion is a selected object, the most excellent, the first, the supreme being. It essentially presupposes a critical judgment, a discrimination between the divine and the non-divine, between that which is worthy of adoration and that which is not worthy. And here may be applied without any limitation the proposition: the object of any subject is nothing else than the subject's own nature taken objectively. Such are a man's thoughts and dispositions, such as his God. So much worth as a man has, so much and no more has his God. Consciousness of God is self-consciousness. Knowledge of God is self-knowledge. By his God you know the man, and by the man his God. The two are identical. Whatever is God to a man, that is his heart and soul, and conversely, God is the manifested inward nature, the express self of a man. Religion, the solemn unveiling of a man's hidden treasures, the revelation of his intimate thoughts, the open confession of his love secrets. But when religion, meaning consciousness of God, is designated as the self-consciousness of man, this is not to be understood as affirming that the religious man is directly aware of this identity, for on the contrary, ignorance of it is fundamental to the peculiar nature of religion. To preclude this misconception, it is better to say, religion is man's earliest and also indirect form of self-knowledge. Hence, religion everywhere precedes philosophy, as in the history of the race, so also in that of the individual. Man first of all sees his nature as if out of himself, before he finds it in himself. His own nature is, in the first instance, contemplated by him as that of another being. Religion is a childlike condition of humanity, but the child sees his nature, man, out of himself. In childhood, a man is an object to himself, under the form of another man. Hence, the historical progress of religion consists in this, that what by an early religion was regarded as objective, it is now recognized as subjective. That is, what was formerly contemplated and worshipped as God is now perceived to be something human. What was at first religion becomes, at a later period, idolatry. Man is seen to have adorned his own nature. Man is given objectivity to himself, but he has not recognized the object as his own nature. A later religion takes a forward step. Every advance in religion is therefore a deeper self-knowledge. But every particular religion, while it pronounces its predecessors idolatrous, accepts itself, and necessarily so, otherwise it would no longer be religion. From the faith, the common nature of all religions, it imputes only to other religions what is the fault, if fault it be, of religion in general. Because it has a different object, a different tenor, because it has transcended the ideas of preceding religions, it erroneously supposes itself exalted above the necessary external laws which constitute the essence of religion. It fancies its objects, its ideas, to be superhuman. But the essence of religion, thus hidden from the religious, is evident to the thinker, by whom religion is viewed objectively, which it cannot be by its votaries. And it is our task to show that the antithesis of divine and human is altogether illusory, that it is nothing else than the antithesis between the human nature in general and the human individual, that consequently the object and contents of the Christian religion are altogether human. Religion, at least the Christian, is the relation of man to himself, or more correctly to his own nature, such as his subjective nature, but a relation to it viewed as a nature apart from his own. The divine being is nothing else than the human being, or rather the human nature purified, freed from the limits of the individual man, made objective, such as contemplated and revered as another, a distinct being. All the attributes of the divine nature are therefore attributes of the human nature. In relation to the attributes, the predicates of the divine being, this is admitted without hesitation, but by no means in relation to the subject of these predicates. The negation of the subject is held to be irreligion, nay, atheism, though not so the negation of the predicates. But that which has no predicates or qualities has no effect upon me. That which has no effect upon me has no existence for me. To deny all the qualities of a being is equivalent to denying the being himself. A being without qualities is one which cannot become an object to the mind, and such a being is virtually non-existent. Where man deprives God of all qualities, God is no longer anything more to him than a negative being. To the truly religious man, God is not a being without qualities, because to him he is a positive, real being. The theory that God cannot be defined, and consequently cannot be known by man, is therefore the offspring of recent times, a product of modern unbelief. As reason is and can be pronounced finite only when man regards sensual enjoyment, or religious emotion, or aesthetic contemplation, or moral sentiment as the absolute, the true, so the proposition that God is unknowable or undefinable can only be enunciated and become fixed as a dogma, where this object has no longer any interest for the intellect, where the real, the positive, alone has any hold on man, where the real alone has for him the significance of the essential, of the absolute divine object, but where at the same time, in contradiction with this purely worldly tendency, there yet exists some old remains of religiousness. On the grounds that God is unknowable, man excuses himself to what is yet remaining of his religious conscience for his forgetfulness of God, his absorption to the world. He denies God practically by his conduct. The world has possession of all his thoughts and inclinations, but he does not deny him theoretically. He does not attack his existence. He lets that rest. But this existence does not affect or incommode him. It is merely negative existence, an existence without existence, a self-contradictory existence, a state of being which, as to its effects, is not distinguishable from non-being. The denial of determinate positive predicates concerning the divine nature is nothing else than the denial of religion, with, however, an appearance of religion in its favor, so that it is not recognized as a denial. It is simply a subtle, disguised atheism. The alleged religious horror of limiting God by positive predicates is only the irreligious wish to know nothing more of God, to banish God from the mind. Dread of wish to know nothing more of God, to banish God from the mind. Dread of limitation is dread of existence. All real existence, such as all existence which is truly such, as qualitative determinative existence. He who earnestly believes in the divine existence is not shocked at the attributing events of gross, sensuous qualities to God. He who dreads an existence that may give offense, who shrinks from the grossness of a positive predicate, may as well renounce existence altogether. A God who is injured by determinate qualities has not the courage and the strength to exist. Qualities are the fire, the vital breath, the oxygen, the salt of existence. An existence in general, an existence without qualities, is an insipidity and an absurdity. But there can be no more in God than is supplied by religion. Only where man loses his taste for religion, and thus religion itself becomes insipid, does the existence of God become an insipid existence, an existence without qualities.